So Banishers Ghosts of New Eden is a game that I've been excited about for a very long time, since I first saw it, really. And after finishing it, I finished it after 23 hours now I've played around. There's still a lot left to do in the open world, but I kind of mainlined towards the end because I wanted to get it done for a review. I'm still going to go back to it maybe and do some of the side cases and stuff like that, because that is some of the more interesting stuff in this game, which we'll get into. But basically, I come away from the game with a lot of positive experiences, but also just the feeling of kind of, it's a little bit of a mixed bag is what I'll say. So we'll get into it right now and talk about all the things that I liked and the things that I didn't like, the good, the bad, and the ugly kind of. There's one big problem I have with the game, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. So if you're not familiar, in Banishers Ghosts of New Eden, your partner slash lover, Antea Duarte, is killed and remains by your side as a ghost in spirit form throughout the game. Now, this isn't a spoiler because this has been in the marketing material the whole way up to launch. So basically, you're left with a choice on whether you want to help her ascension or help resurrect her and bring her back and have her with you again. And each unique case throughout the game plays into that. So if you banish or ascend the ghosts within this case, it helps with Antea's ascension. And if you decide the living human is at fault, you can actually kill the living human, blame them, and that actually helps with Antea's resurrection. So it's a little bit of a dark game where, like, you have to sacrifice humans to try and get back your lover slash wife. It's one of those kind of decisions where you're like, it's a little bit of a morally complex one, but in general, the cases throughout this game are very interesting and morally complex. So let's get into the review overall. All right, so let's start with the gameplay. Now, the gameplay is fun. I feel like combat can be a little bit unfluid due to constant switching, but once you get used to switching between the characters at the right moments and stuff, it can be quite satisfying to do that. Now, I do think the game suffers from getting a little bit repetitive as time goes on, especially due to the fact that there's not much enemy variety at all. It's a little bit disappointing with the enemy variety. You fight the same 5 enemies in the same combat situations throughout the game, and it did, like, wear on me a little bit towards the end. But yeah, with Red McWraith, who is one of the main characters, you have a sword and a rifle, basically, and you kind of switch between those two. You have as many bullets in the clip as you want. You never run out of ammo, as long as you can just have time to reload the gun in the fight. And reloading the gun in the fight can be difficult at times if you have quick enemies around and stuff like that, so you have to kind of dodge your way away and get out of there. There is a parry system as well. With Red McWraith, you can parry with L1. But I didn't really like the parry system that much, to be honest. I did like the whole switching between the two characters. I actually thought, like, playing with Antea was really fun, but you only get limited time with Antea before your spirit points run out, and then it switches you back to Red immediately. So you can't die as Antea because she's already dead, obviously. So when you run out of health or run out of spirit points with Antea, it just switches you back to Red McWraith, Rory McWraith, a proper Celt name there. He's from Scotland in the game, and he's actually a really enjoyable character. I'll get into that a little bit later, but I really do like his character a lot. But yeah, overall, I think the combat suffers a little bit from getting repetitive, as I said, but it is generally pretty fun throughout the game. Now, we'll talk about a little bit about the actual cases within the game. So this is the main brunt of the gameplay. So basically, there'll be a person who's haunted by a ghost, right? And you kind of have to investigate this whole scenario, figure out why the ghost is haunting this person, and whether it was their fault, if you want to help ascend them, if you want to banish them to the depths of hell, basically. Giving them their ascension is basically like the good version of letting them go off peacefully. So if you think that the person or the ghost in the case was kind of justified or not evil or just kind of whatever, then you can help them with their ascension. If you think that ghost was an absolute scumbag, a terrible person, you can banish them and send them to hell. And it's the same thing with the person. Now, the person, you can't ascend them, obviously, because they're not dead, but you can blame the human being instead of, like, ascending or banishing the ghost. You can just solely put the blame on the living human in the scenario, and you can basically execute them. So you're judge, jury, and executioner in this game, which is kind of dark, but it's cool. So yeah, you and Antea are both banishers in this game. I forgot to mention this at the start, but you're both banishers, and the duty of a banisher is to banish a ghost, obviously, and that's why you're going through with all these different cases and stuff like that. It's not like you're randomly just coming across these people and deciding to help them. It's actually their job. That's what they're designed to do. But these cases are 100% the best part of this game. I feel like just overall, the decisions that you have to make in these are quite difficult. And I love that in video games where like they actually really make you think about your decisions. You have to investigate stuff properly. And a lot of time on these cases, you can kind of disagree with Antea or agree with Antea, and she'll have little snide comments or remarks based on what you do. And obviously the reaction of, say, the human if you banish the ghost versus ascend them. Like sometimes if you ascend them, the human in the case will be very disappointed. They were like, they deserved so much worse than that. They deserve to be banished. Or if you banish them and they didn't really want that, then they can be upset about that as well. But sometimes they'll ascend them and they'll be like, I feel so much more free now. And all that. I just think generally, and there's a lot of these cases, by the way. These aren't just intrinsically linked to the main story. There's a lot of these cases all over the world. And that is why I want to kind of go back into the game and do these, because I do think these are the most enjoyable part of the game. Yeah, it's just overall a very, very cool concept to have in your game, and I really enjoyed kind of traversing these cases and figuring out who's guilty and kind of deciding on my own. And I struggled with a lot of these decisions where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm making the right decision. I don't know. And this is actually things that happen throughout the game as well, where it will lead to certain people in charge based on what you do. And I think overall I like that kind of stuff in the game. I do think the game can feel slow in particular parts where you're just kind of traveling and exploring and stuff like that. I don't mind that in video games where you're kind of just walking around and kind of investigating. But for a lot of people, like there's a few sections like that where there's not a lot of combat, but to be honest, I kind of prefer that than just having consistent battles. Towards the end, though, when you're doing those cases, like the side cases and stuff like that, there is a lot of just consistent battling and battling and battling. And that's actually when I kind of got a little bit bored with the combat, where it was like the same thing over and over again, and I'm fighting the same enemy over and over and over again. And that's where it kind of just lost me a little bit. Now, the main plot of Banishers Ghosts of New Eden is a little bit weaker, I think. Like, I don't think it's bad by any stretch of the imagination, but there's one thing that just hampers this game, and this is the big problem that I had with the game that I'm gonna kind of talk about now, and that is that one of the main characters is just wholly unlikable. Antea Duarte, I don't know, like, is it because they were just trying to make her a little too badass and it didn't really hit with me, where, like, I don't know, she just is not likable at all. She's kind of, I don't know how to put it, because, and I think what makes it worse is Rory McWraith, the male partner, is very likable. He's soft-hearted, he's a nice guy in general, and then you have her who's just the complete opposite of him. She's headstrong, she's bullish, she's arrogant, she's just overall just, I don't know, I never could connect with her. And throughout the game, I just continually got more and more annoyed with her as a character. I don't want to get too much into spoilers now, but I don't know, I just found her to be very, very unlikable the way she was written, and that kind of did ruin the main plot of the game a little bit for me. Is that I don't know how to go more in depth with it without spoiling the game, really, so I won't, but I'll just say that much. That is kind of my biggest problem with the game. And in this game, there is like a strong focus on strong female characters, you know, which is fine, of course, but this game is set in 1695, and there's kind of a lot of little quips from Antea throughout the story where I feel like she is just like the worst of them. Like, she is, I think they're trying to write her as this strong kind of I don't need anyone female character, but it just comes off as unlikable throughout the story, especially when she's dealing with other cases and stuff. Like, when you're dealing with the side cases or any of these cases, she's just like, oh, I'm bored of them. I don't care about this. I don't want to be a part of this. They're annoying me. And it's like, okay, like, we get it, man. You're cool. You're badass. You know, it's like, it got to the point where I was like, just shut up. You know, I was like, I wish I could banish you in the game, you know? But no, towards the end, like, you get a little bit more in depth with her and Red's relationship, and I kind of was playing from the start. And this is kind of the great part about the game. So I was playing from the start with the intention that I would ascend Antea, right? That we would do the ascension, because I feel like it would be hypocritical to resurrect her when they're ghost hunters and that is their job, is to banish ghosts. I felt like it would just be a little hypocritical. But there's moments in the game where they make you question it, where they're like, with the specific cases, say, And when I want to blame a human, right, and I think the human is at blame, I'm actually contributing to the resurrection. Even though I have chosen that I want to do the ascension, if you're sacrificing the humans, that puts it towards the resurrection. That, like, kind of makes power go towards that. So I kind of had to go into every case with the idea, like, I would rather banish or ascend the ghost, because that is my ultimate goal, is to ascend my lover, Antea. So it kind of puts you in this little situation where you're kind of thinking about it twofold, you know? You're like, oh, maybe I want to punish this person, but maybe I shouldn't, because then that could potentially... Now, it gives you a lot of different cases, and you could do side quests, and upon side quests to kind of make sure that you get the ending that you want. But as I was playing it, I was like, oh, I don't know, like, I kind of want to make sure, that I'm getting the ascension, so I'm gonna banish or ascend this ghost. Maybe that's not the correct thing to do, or the thing that I felt in my heart that was morally right. Yeah, overall, there's not many, like, too many memorable characters in this game. And as I said, strong female present, like you have thick-skinned Newsmith, you have Kate Newsmith, the Seeker, you have Ceridian, all like strong female characters, and then the men are just little little weasels, and that's the way that it is in this game. And except for Red, like, he is a male character, and he's a very likable man, and he was written actually really well. I feel like I really liked him as a character, and that's what made it much more difficult to deal with Antea, because I'm always on his side. I'm like, yeah, what he's saying is right, and Antea's like kind of arguing with him and being kind of a little bit odd with him, and I'm like, come on, just stop, you know? And that is kind of it. Now, the game entirely is pretty much set in a mire swamp style area, which is, it's like there's New Eden, and then there's the surrounding area of New Eden, which is where you spend the majority of the game trying to get back to New Eden after. There is a few areas with snow, but generally it's this swampy kind of mire land, which makes sense for the game because it's haunted, and there's a lot of death and ghosts and all sorts of kind of horrible things going on in the world. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy my time with this game. The performance wasn't great. There is definitely a few frame drops that you'll notice a lot more earlier on. You do get a little bit used to it, I suppose, but yeah, there was definitely some frame drops early on, but the graphics are really good. The graphics are great. The character models of the main characters look good. Some of the side characters a little less so, like you notice it a tiny bit, but yeah, I found the performance worse when you're switching between gameplay and cutscenes. You get quite a few frame drops, but I will say throughout my entire 23 hours playing, did not get a single bug. So with a lot of kind of games releasing really buggy and broken, I did want to give a huge shout out to Banishers Ghosts of New Eden for being completely bug-free, at least in my experience. It'll probably come out now that everyone's having all sorts of game-breaking bugs and stuff. I always find that sometimes I'll play through a game and I'll have zero issues, and then I'll go online and it's like, this game is broken, it's broken. But I played on PS5. Overall, the game's pretty, doesn't run great. That's about the size of it. Lastly, I wanted to touch on the music, because I do think the music in this game is really good, but it has some very weird moments when it gets like way too loud when you're not in combat. This happened a few times. It almost feels like that was kind of the biggest bug that I had, I guess. I don't really class it as a bug, but there'd be times where the music would get really loud when I'm just kind of exploring a house, and Antea and Red are having a little bit of a side conversation where they're discussing something that you found in the house, and I'm like struggling to hear them because the music's like doo-doo, 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 and I'm like, please turn the music down. But like throughout the game, generally, the music was fine and the volume was fine. So it's just a few instances like that where it was a little bit weird. There was a few instances as well, like during a cutscene where the track would end and it would noticeably be like a few seconds before anything else would happen or the music would come back on. The voice acting in the game, I think, is really good. I think Antea and Red both are very good in their respective roles in the voice acting, and all of the side characters really are pretty good. You got a couple of Irish characters in there as well represent, but yeah, a lot of kind of Celtic, Scottish, Irish characters involved in the game, and I think they do get represented quite well with their voice acting and stuff like that, which was really enjoyable. But yeah, I think overall the reason I'm a little bit disappointed with the game is because I was like, so excited for it, and I think the idea of the game and the theme of the game is better than the end result. But I do think I'm gonna jump back in, do some of these cases, and kind of see where we go from there, because I really do enjoy these side cases that you go in and kind of just figure out who's right, who's wrong, stuff like that. And I might just, I actually played a significant portion of this game on the PlayStation Portal in my bed as well, and I was just kind of relaxing with my girlfriend when she was knitting or watching her show or something. I was just kind of beside her playing on the PlayStation Portal, maybe 3-4 hours or something like that of the game I played on the Portal. But yeah, overall very enjoyable. I just finished it late last night. I kind of didn't know if I was going to get the chance to finish it before the end of the review, because it was actually a much longer game than I was anticipating. So I was told 20 to 25 hours for a standard playthrough. Now I was kind of mainlining it a lot at the start, and I thought when they said standard, I thought that would be like, you know, 25%, 50% world completion, where you'd be doing a lot more stuff, but it wasn't really. I think at the end of the game I only had 15% world completion or something like that. So there's a lot more out there to do, and not all of it is going to be those cases or whatever, but there is a lot of those. The other side activities I didn't find as engaging, but some of them were quite interesting. Yeah, but I'd highly recommend just go in and do a lot of these cases where you kind of have to figure stuff out, because I do find that part enjoyable. I'm sure you guys will too. So at the moment, I would recommend playing this game if you're interested in the basic theme of it, because I do think it's an enjoyable experience. I had a great time. I just had some bigger issues with main character, and some of the story points as well weren't great. But overall, I do recommend playing it, and I don't regret my time playing it. I'll say that much. I still had a very good time playing it. Now I'm going to get back to some of the other games that I'm playing. I am doing like a playthrough of it here as well. I have a part 1 up. I might record more as well. We'll see where we go from there. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. See you next time. Pleasure to serve you all. Peace out.